Hey teacher! So in the midst of so much uncertainty and a lot of us having to take our classrooms virtual or online, I wanted to make sure that you still felt equipped and encouraged to do this with excellence and in a way that's still your style. So here are 5 tips to rock the virtual classroom. Before I get into anything else, let me just say that you can do this. Teachers are some of the most flexible and adaptable leaders on the planet. You literally have to make game-changing decisions every single day of your classroom life. So, I know that this can seem overwhelming and really not what you signed up for, but I just want to encourage you that you are an epic world changer and you can navigate this in whatever form it ends up taking. Because at the end of the day, this is what we do. Yes, we have expertise in some field of study, but what we are really masters of is breaking down content to its most basic idea in a way that someone else can fully understand it. We are expert communicators in this process. So don't worry, if the methodology has changed or the platform looks a little different, you can still do this because this is what you are great at. So let's jump into it. Here are our 5 tips for creating a rockin' virtual classroom, even if you're starting from scratch. So the first one is this: you're still gonna incorporate the same elements that you would in your in-person classroom. So I'm talking about things like envisioning students' learning needs, their different learning styles, the pace that they're gonna learn at, the interaction that they need. And that's hard to think because they're not in front of you anymore, but you need to get creative of how to recreate some of those elements on a virtual platform. And believe me, it's possible. 2020, what a time to be alive. There are seriously so many excellent resources online for you as teacher. So think about that incredibly visual student, for example. Making sure that you have charts, diagrams, pictures, illustrations in your lesson plans so that they can still grasp the material in a meaningful way. If they have access to technology, consider sending in an extra YouTube video that might explain it with a fresh voice in a new way. There are so many good resources on YouTube for teachers. If your students are kinesthetic learners and incredibly physical and they need to be moving items around to get the material, think about where they are at home. What could you relate the content to in their physical space? Having them measure their desks or measure their dining room table or pick up this and feel the weight of that. Envision where their space is and try and draw on those elements for your students' learning needs. For your auditory learners, have moments in your lesson plans where they need to say things out loud or have something read back to them. You might find that even those little moments make a student feel like they're connecting with the content so much better. The second one is to recreate class culture. Now, this is not something most people would think of when they think of a virtual classroom. Like, how can I create a vibe in my classroom if I'm not even there in front of my students? But this is so essential. Think about the experience of your classroom. You as teacher bring so much life, momentum, and vibe just by leading your classroom every day. In a virtual space, a lot of that can be lost and a lot of momentum in your classroom can die because the students are having to manufacture it all on their own every single day from scratch. So little moments that you can inject your lesson plans, your space with class culture are gonna be all the difference. So I'm gonna give you a bunch of examples. Apply what's relevant for your situation. So you might have students that have access to technology. You might be using like a Google Classroom, or your students might not have access to classroom technology and they might be using a packet or something printed out. Whatever the platform is, think of creative ways that you can insert who you are, your personality, the experience of your classroom back into the lesson plans. Things like incentives and competitions. Maybe the first class period to turn in this assignment is gonna get an extra bonus point. Or if you guys can all turn this in by next Friday, I'm gonna do a crazy TikTok and totally embarrass myself. Or I'm going to dye part of my hair pink. Or, it doesn't always have to fall on you. Maybe when we all get back, we're gonna do an ice cream party or something that will incentivize the students and still create that sense of unity, that group mentality that you really always use in your classroom to create life and momentum. Even thinking bigger picture, what project could I create right now that could be something ongoing that's going to incorporate so many different elements of our content at one time, and could be something that really unites us all on the same front, and something that we consistently refer back to as a memory maker, or something that we all had to navigate while we were working from home. A huge thing in class culture is the aspect of community. So having students, for example, submit their photos of them working on a packet, or, your reaction to that part of the book, share a picture of yourself reacting to the scene where whatever happens. Allowing them to interact and engage with each other, if they're able to do it on a platform like Google Hangout, or even having them send their feedback to you and you mass communicating, a lot of you are sharing that you are really upset at this part, or you're really confused by this. Even those subtle moments of class community is really essential for your classroom. We don't know how much students rely on that sense of normalcy when they are in person with each other interacting. So find important ways that you can recreate that in a really authentic way and allow them to engage with each other. The third one is this: lead boldly. It's easy to feel overwhelmed and shaken when your whole classroom plans just get dumped out. And now you're having to navigate a ton of technology and platforms, or extra planning and extra scheduling and all the things. But again, we talked about how teachers are great leaders and that you were made for this. So whatever you do, do it boldly. Assure your students that you have what it takes to lead this, you know where you're going, and that you are going to figure it out on their behalf. I don't think we realize how much students depend on us as secure leaders. Think about how many of your students a day are looking to you as some kind of role model, as some kind of voice in their life that is always the same. This is a time for bold leadership from their teacher, even where their teacher could be freaking out and panicking like the rest of the world. And the last two kind of go along with that. The fourth one is to watch what you say. In a time of panic, your narrative matters. It really matters what comes out of your mouth, or what goes onto your lesson plans, or what goes out on that email. Students look to you as a role model, and in the vulnerable moments, they are going to be listening extra carefully to what you say. Make sure that your narrative is one that is positive and one that is respectful. This is not the time to be bashing your leadership, your school's administration, the leadership of your state, the leadership of this country. Whatever you do, please do it respectfully, because they are going to remember more what you say in these days than perhaps any other. The fifth one is this: be both patient and realistic. Someone once said we have more in common with our students than we don't. Remember this, especially when you're planning the pace of your workload. A lot of students are going to genuinely struggle with this new format of school. Just like you might have felt overwhelmed when the announcements were made that we're going to really turn everything on its head, remember that a lot of your students do not thrive in this kind of environment. So be patient and genuinely understanding when they say they might not be able to reach a deadline or do part of the assignment that you've required of them, because you never know what they're facing at home, and you never know how difficult this new format might be for them to navigate. I hope you guys feel a little encouraged and equipped. At the end of the day, you are the expert of your classroom, and you are the leader that's going to help navigate all of this. Bless you guys, and I'll see you on the next video.